Welcome back to Between Bells, everybody. We are just 3 days away from the official start of the Olympic Games, with thousands of athletes coming together to compete in an event that has seen significant delays and major changes due to the pandemic. Joining us now, Gail Devers, three-time Olympic gold medalist. Gail, welcome to the show. Such a privilege to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. No, this is a highlight for me, trust me. As someone who's been to the Olympics before, what goes through an athlete's mind when they're this close, 3 days away?
Oh my goodness. All the preparation, all the goals that you set for yourself. It's like, okay, it's going to come down to, depending on your event, 10, 11, 12, 13 seconds, and there's no guarantee that 4 or 5 years from now, you'll be able to do it again. So you got to put it all on the line.
And I don't have to tell you, the Olympics look drastically different. We've seen rule changes, of course, those COVID fears. What's your reaction as you're watching this from the outside this time around?
You know what? I know there's not going to be fans in the stands, but I go back to 92, my second Olympic Games, and I had to train myself that there's going to be 100,000 people in the stands. Tune them out, so they don't have to do that. And even if they were in the stands, when it comes down to the 100 meters or most of the races, they tell the fans to shh, be quiet. So that's something that I think is gonna work in their benefit. Yes, you feed off of the energy of the fans, but I think we have to take this year. These athletes are going to have to take them in our hearts. I know with the pandemic or even with the COVID, and every day now in Tokyo, there's something different. I rely on the powers that be, that they'll make the right decisions, and just say prayers that our athletes stay safe.
Let's talk about that, because the CEO of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, is not ruling out an 11th hour cancellation. What would that mean for the athletes to have these games shut down 3 days before competition?
To be honest, it brings me back to my Graves' disease, and it feels like being on top of the mountain and somebody taking the mountain away. But what we have to realize is that they're going to make the best decisions to keep, it's not just the athletes, it's the country, it's everyone, keeping everybody safe. And I think that's more important. And I will say that coming from the standpoint of, I was fighting for my life, going through my Graves' disease, trying to make sure that I could get back to track and field. And if there was no track and field to get back to, for me, it didn't work. So I think we'll just have to play it day by day and hope for the best. I mean, that's basically the main thing. And these athletes have waited 18 months. And so we'll see what happens. Thank
you for sharing your story, because you really did have to fight your way back to the track after being diagnosed with a thyroid condition, Graves' disease, like you mentioned. What was that experience like, and what did you learn from it, Gail?
Oh my goodness. Well, I learned to be an advocate for my own health, to be honest, because it took 2.5 years. I was sidelined. I felt like the bottom had fallen out. I was struggling to train and could not. I had extreme weight loss. I was 79 pounds. I was supposed to be 120. I had hair loss. I was constantly fatigued, but yet I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia. And then I had a lot of eye problems. And after 3 years, I finally got my diagnosis of Graves' disease, and I was able to get my life back on track, or so I thought. For all these years, the eye symptoms that I was going through, I had like bulging eyes, pain, redness, and I thought that they were part of my Graves' disease. And I just recently, 30 years later, found out that those conditions are something else I have now, which is called thyroid eye disease. It's separate, but it's related. 50% of people with Graves' disease may develop this thyroid eye disease, and it needs to be treated by a separate physician, like an oculoplastic surgeon or a neuro-ophthalmologist. So I need people to understand. I went through it. You don't have to go through it. You just need to pay attention to your eye health. I thank you for allowing me to come on and spread this information, because that's what it's about, is touching somebody's life and helping give their quality of life back. So that's what it is.
What do you want people who aren't familiar with the eye thyroid disease to know? What symptoms should they look out for, Gail?
Like I said, eye pain, redness, bulging of the eyes. I even have sensitivity to lights, like people driving, their oncoming lights for traffic. And I know people who have thyroid eye disease, and it steals your identity. They cannot work, they cannot drive. And that should not be. What I need people to know is, if you have Graves' disease or know the symptoms of Graves' disease, and if you have it, you need to pay attention to your eye health. You need to see a separate doctor, which is a TED specialist. You can go on a website. It's focusonted.com. You got to get your life back. I always tell people, My grandmother passed away at 98. I plan on going to 100, and I want to have the quality of life that I deserve. I want to be able to write my notes down and write my goals on sticky notes and be able to accomplish those. And I know what fighting for your life means. You got to be an advocate, but you got to, take the horn and really, really, really pursue getting your life back.
Gail, you're such an icon in the sport. We all know you. I do want to talk to you about track star Sha'Carri Richardson. Of course, she was planning to compete in the field that you took gold in. She won't be attending the games after testing positive for marijuana. What's your response to this controversy?
I love that she accepted responsibility. After she won the race at the trials, she said that her mother had passed away. So she kind of let us in on a little bit. And then when I heard that she tested positive, and that was her coping mechanism, she accepted responsibility. She said she knew it was on the list, but that's what she needed at that time, but it will never happen again. And I look at life lessons, and the life lesson I get from that is that there's consequences for your actions. And if we take a pause to think about the consequences, we might not do half the things we thought about doing, but she's got 30 days, and she's taking that time to be what I say, an advocate for her own health mentally, trying to get herself back where she needs to be. And I, for one, would not like to be in any of those lanes when she comes back for her first race, because I think that's going to fuel her to do it. When something's taken away from you and that's something that you worked for, sure, and you get another opportunity, please, you're not going to let anything stop you.
Yeah, I have no doubt this isn't the last we've heard of her. And it's such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for sharing your story. Gail Devers, 3-time Olympic gold medalist.